We're live. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very delighted to introduce our two advanced students, Pablo and Sebas. Pablo, how are you today?
Excellent teacher, and you?
Just fantastic. Thank you very much. And you, Sebas, how are you today?
Perfect teacher, thank you.
Very nice. Well, today we have a very interesting talk, a very interesting topic, which is about culture shock. What happens when people go to live to other countries? If you move to the US, to Canada, to Europe, to Latin America, to South America, what happens with the culture? You have to adapt yourself to the new environment, to the new people, to the new rules, to the new working habits, to the new manners. So we're going to have Pablo present uh, Sweden, please. Pablo, go ahead, please.
Yes. Well, you know that too many students want to study to European country, and many of them choose Sweden. Of course, we know that the Swedish culture is very beautiful, and I'm gonna give you some data about this culture. Well, first, in the first point, we have the among the oldest historical remains of Swedish cultural representation are rock carvings from the Bronze Age, but the true golden age of Swedish culture comes at the end of the 18th century. Of course, that is a very old culture, and I'm gonna give you the data. The Swedish value opens a cooperation in university and workplaces and loves classifying some people as more valuable than others. Although you might be surprised to call your teacher or boss by name and find them dressed more casually than expect, you'll soon get used to egalitarian nature of the Swedish dynamic. Uh, with this culture, we try to explain you that maybe you are gonna be in the hallways in your school, and maybe someone that you think that is a student, maybe he's going to be the teacher because they don't go with suit or with a specific kind of clothes. They look very typical, and that's an important point of the culture because with this point they try to show you that everyone could be intelligent and be a teacher in the college. So for that reason it's very important. Say it. The other one is in Sweden. You have the freedom to be how you want to be, and you have to the freedom to express your opinions, fight or your rights, and make a difference in the society. They have a lot of freedom in this expression. The Swedish love of the outdoors carries over to its food culture. When you make Swedish friends, they will probably invite you to go to crayfish party that might involve setting traps and feasting on the crawfish. If the crawfish aren't appetizing, you can enjoy the outdoors by picking berries and mushrooms in one of Sweden's many forests. Of course, that they have a specific diet. We know that they try to keep very healthy everywhere. Their diet is component. The most important component we know that is the fish. They consider very important, and of course the vegetables. And the last one is like much of European, Sweden takes holidays seriously with plenty of free time for school and work to celebrate with family and friends. The most important holidays in Sweden are Christmas and the summer solstice.
Very nice, very interesting. Pablo, thank you very much. Before going to the questions, we're going to ask Sebas to give us a little talk about the interesting culture of Japan. Can you go ahead and explain the Japanese culture, Sebas, please?
Yes, teacher, Japan and Mexico share several similarities, such as responsibility, respect, care in the family, teamwork, and solidarity, and not forget the gratitude to face difficult situations that can arise at the last expected moment. And Mexicans, a difference is Mexican have time to do many activities, but in Japan Um, they are always work at late, and they live under time pressure. So when the Japanese people arrive to work in Mexico, they really release that they have to time to dedicate to different things, not just to work and work and work. And for Mexicans, family and friends are very important in their life. This being the reason why their time tends to be divided for different activities. And it's true because the Mexicans likes a lot the party, like the September 15. We have a very big party in whole Mexico, with our families. We sometimes in my family we sing songs. We have a lot of music. We eat Mexican traditional food or something like that. In Japan, it's they are very working people. Yeah, and it's a very big difference in cultures. Yes.
Okay. Very interesting. Sebas, thank you very much. Good representation as well. Good presentation of Cuba. And before going to the questions with Pablo and Sebas, I want to give a little talk about Cuba and the Cuban culture. Uh, Despite their apparent poverty, because they don't enjoy a very luxurious life, they don't, for example, they don't have luxury cars. Their houses are made of adobe, some of them not full brick. Some of them have bad foundation. Their living conditions are not as good as we would say in Mexico. But you say Mexico, where in Mexico? Because we have very poor people in Chiapas, in Oaxaca, even in Guanajuato. You have poor neighborhoods that you say, well, that colony, yeah, well, that colony is in Mexico, it's not in China, right? So the same as in Mexico, Cubans are very diverse in the sense that you have very, very extremely wealthy people and lots, thousands, millions of poor people. In general, not in general, they have one of the highest literacy rates in the world. That means that they are very studious people, very diligent and responsible people. They take knowledge as a coin. They work a lot, they study a lot, they are very prepared, but also they are very happy, very festive. The main music genre is the son cubano, which is very festive. You play with jaranas, you play with guitars, you play with the drums, etc. And the rhythm is very festive. So you really get to like the music genre, the son cubano. Many Cubans have become international artists recognized all over the world. For example, Celia Cruz is one of them, but there have been many, many others. Many Cuban guys have emigrated to the US and have become famous actors, right? Famous actors. For example, I believe Andy Garcia is from Cuba, I think. So you see lots of Cubans that have succeeded going out of the country. Obviously, when we talk about successes, we're talking about economic success. How Cuba culture has been formed, or amalgamation of African and Spanish influences mostly. There was an immigration of African slaves to work in the African crops, probably most likely picking up cotton in the crops, in the cotton fields, and they brought Cuban people, and they mixed with the natives, as happened with Mexico. The Africans and the Spanish met, the Indians, the Spanish and the Africans met in Mexico. That's why we are a nice, very beautiful combination of African people, beautiful combination of Indian people, and beautiful combination of Spanish people. That's why the Mexicans are so pretty as considering the world. The Mexican race is very beautiful because it's an amalgamation of different races, the African, the Indian, and the Spanish. Obviously, that's extremely attractive and very nice. Cuba is Mexico's third largest trading partner in the Caribbean. That means that Mexico, despite the political pressures of the Yankees of the US, we still do quite a significant trade with the Cubans and the Caribbean countries. Just in terms of money, we totaled 374 million USD, which you would say is not an important number compared to the amount that we trade with the US, with China, with Germany, and with Canada. But it still is increasing. And it looks like we are now freer to trade what we want with Cuba. In the past, there was a limitation. If we sent any goods to Cuba, food or medicines, there was immediately a revenge in the border, and they say, okay, you send to Cuba, I don't send you refrigerators, I don't send you stoves, I don't send you computers, I don't send you toothpaste. So you do what you want, I do what I want. I don't send you refrigerators. And that was economic pressure, because if we wanted to help Cubans with medicines or with food, immediately there was a retaliation from the US saying, okay, I don't send you refrigerators, tools, machinery, computers, or this or that. But that is finishing, and now things are becoming more friendly, politically and economically, with the Cubans. Well, let's go now to some of the questions. I'm going to ask Pablo to read his questions, please. Pablo, can you go ahead and read your questions?
Yes, teacher. Um, One of them is for you, and that is, what is the most important point in the culture that you choose?
Well, I believe that the most important point in the culture of the Cuban people is that despite not being a very wealthy nation, despite not having a lot of money, despite not having a lot of resources and sometimes not enough food, like recently when they brought chicken from Brazil, the American banks gave an amazing, huge fine to the Brazilian banks because they were not obedient, and they decided to send chicken to Japan under the water. They were disobedient, so they were fined with millions of dollars, the Brazilian banks. But even that, even if they are not very buoyant in terms of economic resources, they are very happy people. You see the people in the streets, they are not depressed, they are not, oh, no, they're very happy, singing, dancing. Their attitude before life is incredibly happy, incredibly festive. They make lots of jokes. They are laughing at everything. They make wits. They joke. They laugh. They smile. They are very close to you. So they love to sing. They have these called peñas, where they have two or three singers that play an instrument and sing, and their music is just fabulous. So that's why I chose Cuban culture as an example of happiness despite difficult moments.
Yeah, I totally agree with you in that point that with not too many resources, they could do a lot of things, and very important for the humanity.
Exactly, exactly. Very good comment, Pablo. Thank you very much. Let's see. I'm going to ask a question to you, Pablo, or to Sebas. I'm going to ask a question for Sebas. Why did you choose Japan as your first choice, Sebas? Why did you choose Japan as an attractive country or country to learn about?
Well, I think I choose it because now it's a very technological uh, city, because they have now a lot of advances in technology, medicine, a lot of things. I think it's very attractive to investigate more about Japan. I think if in the future I have the opportunity to go to Japan, I think I will go to know more about that culture, about the people, about the places, the most important places. I think it's it's very it's very important know more about another countries and not only your country.
Absolutely. Very nice. Very nice. Do you want to make a question, Sebas, yourself? Do you want to make a question?
Yes, teacher. It's a question like the Pablo question, but I want to know. Uh, I think you said that you went to Cuba.
Yes, 2 years ago.
Okay, what is the people's personality? Who? What is their attitude?
Well, as I was saying, their attitude is very open. They're very friendly people. They're very polite. They make lots of jokes. They are always laughing and smiling and talking, and they talk very fast and they want to chance you. They want to challenge you. They want to provoke you, but normally in the positive ways. They are very talkative, and they are very affirmative. They say, no, no, this is not right. No, no, yeah, this is right. No, and they can say, no, I like this. No, no, this is better. They are very argumentative, but they don't offend each other. They defend their point. They defend their position. They say, no, 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 blue is the best color. No, no, come on. How do you say blue? You're wrong. The best color is green. No, no, you're crazy. It's gotta be black. No, no, the best color. But they entangle in this type of disputes about their own preferences, but they are very respectful, but they defend their point with strength and with energy until you convince the other ones. So I think they are very festive because of there is a lot of sunlight, and sunlight normally gives you vitamin D, and vitamin D provokes that you are in a very happy mood. So normally the Mediterranean countries, the countries that are in this latitude, will be very happy in their temper, or they also can be temperamental, but normally they would be very happy because of the exposition to light. Believe it or not, but the exposition to light is very meaningful, very important, because that provokes the generation of vitamin D, which gives you serotonin, and that puts you in a positive mood state of mind. So I believe that is part of it. The other is the culture. They come from the amalgamation of three cultures, which is the Spanish, the the aborigines that lived in Cuba, and African people too. So that combination made a very funny result, resulting in obviously good people, nice people, and physically very, very resistant, because they can resist the weather, they can resist the cold, the hot, and they are very adapted because of the combination of races. That is my perception, Sebas.
Okay, teacher, it's a very interesting answer. It well, I don't have a lot of idea of who is how is the people of Cuba, but with your answer, I think it's a very incredible experience. Got to compete with that people.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, yes, that is true. Thank you very much, Sebas. Uh, Pablo, do you want to continue asking questions? Do you want to ask one more question, please?
Yeah, this is for Sebas too. Sebas, how many changes had the Japanese culture in the recent years?
Way I see that the Japanese are very intelligent people. It's very they are a very work very working people. I think in these years they have a lot of advances of technological, a lot of new robots to do dangerous works. Better than a human. I I think it's a very technological place. I think it's a very big change in these years.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because we know that in the Second World War, it was very difficult for them recover to all the destruction that they had. Yeah, I totally agree with you that it's a very important example to how we can recover from the worst disaster. and we can be one of the most important countries in the world.
Yeah, very important comment, Pablo. Yeah, very interesting and very important comment too. Thank you. I'm glad you're mentioning this. I would like to make one more question. This would be for Pablo first, and then for Sebas. Why is Sweden so important internationally? Pablo, why do you think Sweden is so important internationally speaking, in the international arena? Why is Sweden so important?
Well, I think that it's important because it's an example of how too many no how the order and the discipline and all the factors that maybe we don't consider that are important. It could apply. You could apply it in the society. For example, I was checking a data about uh, that in Sweden, the 95% of the people don't have religion. So with this in this position, they don't have controversial topics in this point, so they can live without any problems between each other. So I think that it's very important how we can create a culture of no problems with different opinions, and with the most important uh, characteristic, that is the school, because like I said, in Sweden they prioritize the construction of universities, of schools, because they want that the Swedish people, it has to be informed and prepared.
Very true, very true. That's just fabulous. Yeah, that is true. Thank you, Pablo. Thanks for your comment. And then, Sebas, why do you think Japan is important internationally nowadays?
Well, I said in my answer, in my last answer, it's a very technological place. I think they import to Mexico can be a lot of technological pieces of
Right.
cars, computers, TVs, can be to, one example, PlayStations, Xbox, can be that. I think it's very important for all the world for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Do you want to make your last question, Sebas? You had a last question.
Yes, it's for Pablo. If you have the opportunity to go to Sweden, you take that opportunity, and why?
Yes, of course that, yeah, it's very important, the question. Of course that I will take it because it's a different culture that I would like to explore. And the other point is that there in Sweden, it works the most important companies that produce some components of cars. Well, I am studying that, and I would like to go to there. And another is that other data that I was checking is that the Swedish is one of the countries that they don't have they are less polluted, something like that. The environment is very clear, the water is safe, and all the forests are green in all the states of the year. So of course that I would like to visit.
Very
Okay,
nice.
it's a very good answer. Thank you, Pablo.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sebas. Well, it was truly an interesting conversation, gentlemen. Thank you, Sebas. Thank you, Pablo. Um, just one last question for you both in general terms. This is not in terms of specific countries, but in terms of generalities. And that is something we talked at the beginning, right? When we were discussing the impact of culture, we were saying that the culture has to do with traditions, social norms, how people are in general terms in the family, in society, at work, how the law enforcement is, how education has an impact if people are orderly, polite, or acknowledge, or if these countries recognize the world, as Sweden and Japan are obviously recognizing the world. And then Pablo also mentioned, I think Sebas did something equivalent to mention, which are the visible characteristics of some countries. What would you like to say in general in terms of the important elements of culture, Pablo, and then after you, of course, Sebas? What do you think that are the um, important elements of culture?
I think that the discipline in a culture is one of the most important topics that we could talk, because the order and all the traditions that you have, of course, that if you are very good celebrate, of course, that is going to be attractive for the tourist. But if you are very good keeping the discipline in your culture, for example, in this case, well, in my case of the Swedish people, um, we you could show that you could. That you could be disciplined and you could be attractive for all the tourists in other aspects. For example, the new pollution that they have, uh, the importance in the education. And I think that with the discipline and the order that they have, it could be very attractive for all the tourists. And of course, it could be an example that we could check to apply it in our society.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you very much, Pablo. What about you, Sebas? What is your conception of the important elements of culture, talking about traditions, social norms? And then I will ask one last question to Pablo. But which do you think are the important elements of culture?
I think an important element is their attitude in general in all all their activities, like the work, like with the family, in with friends, with other people. I think it's very important the attitude of the that society. And two, it's their traditions. I think it's very important because, well, Mexico is very know it in other countries for their traditions. His cult, his culture, like the Mexica, the Maya, and something like, and more cultures. I think it's too important the past of the culture of the or the country too, because um, mm, they are important to say what is going to be in the future now.
Right. Well, that's true. That's true. One last question for you, Pablo, and one last question for Sebas too, probably. Um, the culture of Mexico has had an evolution. It has the influences of the Spanish, of course, because of the Spanish heritage, but it also has the influence of the Indian culture, like the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Toltecs, the Mixtecs, the Zapotecs, etc. These traditions have been passed along, right? And we see that in our day to day life, but also the strong influence by the American television and movies and cinema and programs and books. So, how do we cope? How do we cope with that influence? How does it become an amalgamation of a variety of cultures? How do you evolve? In other words, how is the evolution of our culture given the multi influential aspects of culture?
Well, I think that we could apply too many topics in that you are saying, because we know that right now our culture. Of course, that we have too many elements to explode, but I think that right now our culture, like society, is very damaged. Like you say, we have this descendants from the Spanish people. I don't have problem with that, but we could see their problems there, and we are gonna find a different perspective of all the situation that they have, and of course that it's gonna be different because we have changes. But I don't know. I think that we we could apply the best points in their culture and apply it in the ours, because right now we have, of course, we have too many elements to explode. But I consider that in punctual cases, we have to be better. Be better.
Okay. Same. Thank you, Pablo. Same question for you, Sebas. If there should be an evolution of our culture, given the many types of influences that we are given from the Arabs that conquered Spain, and then the Spanish that conquered Mexico, and then the US that has exerted a strong influence in Mexican culture through art, through cinema, through music, through many things. What do you think about the evolution of our culture?
Well, I think it's our culture was very have a very big change, because if we search about our cultures of the past, um, we can find that they have a lot of respect of the nature, and now we we didn't have that respect, because we have a lot of pollution now, or with our cars, with the factories, with a lot of things that we do now. We don't have that respect of to the nature. I think uh, we need return to more to our um, cultures, original cultures.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's really interesting comment, really interesting conclusion. Okay, what would your concluding words, Pablo, about this topic be? How would you conclude this conversation on the different countries, different cultures, culture shock, and our own culture? How would you conclude or summarize this conversation? Which would be your final words?
I think that I can hear you very well, teacher. Can you repeat it?
Oh, yes, of course. How would you summarize the conversation of today? We're talking about the culture shock, about the culture of various countries. You gave examples about Sweden. Sebas gave examples about Japan. I talked about Cuba. We were saying that Mexico is a mixture of the influence of the Spanish, the Arabs, the Mexico, the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Toltecs, lots of traditions, and now a strong influence of the U.S. way of life. So, what would your summary be? How would you sum up? How would you summarize or give a resume or a summary of this talk of today?
Well, I think that I can summarize in two important points. The first one is that we are we could be very critic with all the situation in different countries, but we could learn the good things of the cultures in everywhere, and we could apply it because some all the cultures have good and bad points. of course, that is valid. We don't need to have problems with that. And the other point is that we have to understand to respect the other cultures, because maybe we could imagine that something that is good in other culture, it could be wrong for us, but we have to respect that, and of course depend of the situation. But I think that I'm gonna take that 2 points in the conversation, because we could apply it. We can be better in our perspective.
Very nice, very nice. Okay. What about you, Sebas? Uh, what would you say about these conversations that we had today? We talked about the culture of Sweden, the culture of Japan, the culture of Cuba, and we talked about the culture of Mexico. So, how would you relate those three items? How would you summarize the conversation? What would your conclusion be, and probably a recommendation?
Well, all the cultures are different in all the world. They have different custom, and in some places we can celebrate one thing, but in another place can be not important. Um, I think it's important to learn more about the other countries. We can learn. We can mm, yes, we can learn more about the other cultures. We can be more open people with the world, because it's important to know what is important to the other cultures. And I think we need more, mm, more. Hmm, I don't know how to explain it, because we need more tolerance with other cultures, because Mexicans sometimes we don't have tolerance with some traditions or of other cultures. But I think we need more tolerance. Yeah.
Yeah, I like those phrases very much. That's true. We need to be more open to the way other people are and express. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much for the commentary. I'm gonna finish the transmission now. And great comments. We stay here for additional exercises, but just the live transmission, I'm gonna finish it.